Recording in progress. So welcome everyone to the workshop for the month of October. We're so happy that you're here. Tonight we have Ben Frisch from Frisch Media sharing the topic marketing, networking, and your online presence. The program tonight is sponsored by the Small Business Enterprise Center, and we're very lucky to have them supporting us. I know, Ben, you work closely with them. And anyway, so Ben, take it away.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Thank you, Rebecca, for the intro and for having me to present here today. And yeah, so a little bit of background on myself. Frisch Media landed a contract with the digital Main Street or digital service squad. So this is a program that's been that's managed through the Small Business Enterprise Center, as you said. And we've been at it for about coming up on 3 years now. So it's been a fantastic program to be a part of, especially through the pandemic as digital marketing, really came to the forefront and became a real necessity for a lot of businesses. It was really amazing to be a part of that sort of recovery process and help businesses to really stay on top of their digital presence, their online marketing, and kind of help them through the unknown a little bit. And so again, yeah, so just a background on the Digital Main Street program. It's an Ontario-wide program and managed here by the Small Business Enterprise Center with the additional help and support of the County of Simcoe, the Town of Collingwood, and the Town of the Blue Mountains have all helped to keep our program here going at times when the provincial funding was come and go. It was like we had the support to keep it going, which was really, really amazing. And as a whole, the Digital Main Street program, as I said, is an Ontario-wide support program for small, medium-sized businesses. And it's really devoted to helping business owners improve their just overall online presence. And it launched in 2018. We're on round 3 of the grant program, but there's grants, there's training programs, and us, the regional squads. And our role is really to help promote the program and work with businesses on a one-on-one basis to do things as simple or as complex as setting up a Facebook shop. And I say simple and complex as that one thing because sometimes it can be really simple and sometimes it can really be very difficult. But so today, what we want to talk about specifically is kind of simplifying the overall world of digital marketing. And what we've come up with as a process, like our specific squad, is a digital audit process that we've done for hundreds of businesses. We continue to refine this process, but over the last year, it's really been pretty consistent and been a really valuable asset that we can provide to businesses to not only better understand what things they should be focusing on with their digital marketing, but also areas that they didn't know that were problematic. We can help point out some things that they might be missing, things that might be broken or misleading for their customers. And so it's really, like I said, quite a valuable asset that we do provide. And so when we talk about, the digital, just digital marketing and online presence, I know that it can be such an overwhelming topic for business owners like that. There's no doubt. I mean, when we talk about even just one of these topics, and I mean, I use search engine optimization a lot as an example, because it can get extremely technical and And business owners often just get very overwhelmed with the people in their lives, whether they are technical experts or family friends who are just telling them, oh, you should do this, you need to do that. There's all this information coming at them about what they should and shouldn't be doing. And that's tough. It's really hard thing to process when you're trying to do it all. And what we've kind of worked it down to is, you probably can't do it all. Not many people can do it all. Unless you have a team of people, they probably still can't do it all. So, so let's focus on like the basics. Let's focus on keeping it simplified and keeping it sustainable. So, like I said, we really try and focus on making that providing solutions for businesses that are sustainable and that they can manage either themselves or with the budget that they might have available to them. So yeah, we always really kind of take into context, like, where are you with your business, and where do you want to go, and what are some viable options for you, given your situation, given your own technical expertise, given all these other factors. So we often try and pull out all out of this information on our one-to-ones and our discussions with business owners, so that we can provide solutions that are not overwhelming, like what they might find when they just search engine optimization. Find a plethora of resources. And so our digital audit process is broken into these 5 key areas. Those are branding, website functionality, website content, search engine optimization, as well as your Google My Business listing. But then also social media is number 5. And what we do is we ask a series of best practices, and we'll go through some of those best practices and some of the areas that I think that a lot of businesses are struggling in, areas that businesses are struggling in, and as well as some things that anyone else can do to just improve their digital marketing in a way that is manageable, long-term, and something you can do today. So, branding. So yeah, when we talk about providing solutions for businesses that are reasonable for that particular business, it's very rare that we ever tell a business, like, you should consider rebranding, because it's a big undertaking. It's a big expense. And so, we don't often suggest that, but, we try to point out, for one, we basically ask 3 simple questions. Do you have a logo? Yes or no? Does the brand fit the industry you're in or the type of business? And that one's a little subjective, obviously, which is good, because again, we don't want to insult someone's branding. We want to be very diplomatic about it. But then, is your branding consistent across the different properties? And that's really one of the most important questions. Is, doesn't even matter, like, if your logo, how it looks. What's more important is it consistent? I mean, it is important, don't get me wrong, that it looks good, but is it consistent across your properties? Because what you don't want to have happen is that, someone clicks through from your website to your Instagram, and it just doesn't look like your Instagram page, or, they might have searched on Instagram to try and find you, and they found a page that has this right sounding name, but the logo is like maybe a picture of a person or something, and it just doesn't make sense. So that's one of the main things that we look for in the branding department is just consistency. And not only like like the logo shouldn't look just similar, it should be the exact same logo. And I mean, well, sometimes, you do need to format things to fit within the circle. A lot of most social media platforms have a circle avatar currently, but it should still be very easy for people to see that this and that logo are the same. But it's something that we, without a doubt, see consistently, is this logos don't match up, or this doesn't have a logo, that doesn't have a logo. So the best piece of advice when it comes to branding is just make sure that they are similar. They are the same across the board and same colors, really try and nail it down. And I will also say that, sometimes I've seen with other clients that passing that logo file around can get degraded over time, and all of a sudden someone starts using something that's like they screenshot it from the website, and like it just keeps getting lower and lower quality. So just make sure that there's a folder saved with as high resolution images as possible, so that you can always have that sort of master to come back to. So branding, pretty simple. But when we get into the next topic, the next part of your digital property that is very important is obviously your website. And the way that we've broken it out in our digital audit process is looking at both the functionality of your website as well as the content, because they are two fairly separate things. So when we talk about the functionality of a website, what we're looking at is things like load time. Does it load quickly? Are there any missing images or broken links that are happening? So really analyzing the whole user experience. Like if I'm coming to your website to buy something from you, to learn about you, what is that process like? Are you making it as easy and functional as possible for people to kind of take the action that you need them to take? So other things are like, is the website responsive? So meaning, does it fit within any resolution, specifically mobile? Is your contact information clear and easy to find? A big one that a lot of businesses don't do is a direct line of communication. So mostly what we mean there is a call now button. So specifically, like if you are viewing the website on a mobile device, it is often, especially if you're in a service industry, it's great to have a call now button right there. And but there's other ways, other forms of direct communication, and which can also include like chatbots, which are becoming more and more popular, and can really help sort of automate that direct communication, and make that customer experience, a lot better. Things like how easy is it to find information about your website? It's amazing how, information about like the products you sell. It's amazing how often, just things like that get overlooked. And navigation can get very cluttered very quickly. And so it's really important to simplify navigation, simplify the process. And when designing a website, or even just redesigning a website, it's always really good to just focus on what is it that you want the customer to do. Is it you want them to browse and buy products, or do you want them to pick up the phone and call you, or maybe fill out a form? So whatever that call to action is, whatever you want them to do, really put as much focus on that as possible and making it easy for them to get there. That is the best piece of advice I can give, just making it really simple. And of course, fix any errors, because especially with SEO, search engine optimization, we'll get to that a little bit in more detail, but the functionality definitely does play a role in how your website gets ranked with Google. They will catch and notice things like load time, broken links, and sort of penalize you for those errors. So important to just keep on top of it and get them fixed. And important to note as well. So it sort of covers off a couple different bases, but there are some pretty simple free SEO or website reports that you can run on your website to look for some of those errors and test your loading speed to see where you are in terms of your performance, so that you can address those and fix any of those problems, because as I said, Google doesn't really like them, like when you have issues like that. And so that's something that we include too in our report. We run an audit on a website, or excuse me, we run a web.dev lighthouse report, it's called, that looks for a lot of these issues as well. So hopefully that's still fairly not so overwhelming, keeping it pretty tame, right? They're pretty simple things, like just making sure your contact information is clear and visible. Pretty simple stuff. And then when it comes to the content on your website, same kind of principles apply in terms of just being really clear about the way that we're communicating. It's really important that when people land on your website, they understand what it is that you're selling as quickly as possible, like within the first 2 seconds. They really shouldn't have to scroll anywhere to know what this business is about. Because again, like we get drop off, like people, if the website doesn't even load quickly enough, if it doesn't look right, in terms of what they are looking for specifically, they're going to just turn around and click on something else. So it's important that we communicate what it is that we're selling and how to buy it right there, front page. Like, no sense in trying to dress it up in any way. Like, just be very clear. It's pretty straightforward. The other thing too that we look for when it comes to website content is making sure everything's current, right? Sometimes if we see things like events that are still posted that are 2 weeks old, that's a sign that it can throw people off, right? Customers might think like, oh, I wonder if this business is still active, right? Are they still open? Which is unfortunately a common, it's a reality today, right? A lot of businesses being shut down, being affected negatively. And so it's even more important to stay on top of that content, make sure it's up to date, remove anything that's old and outdated, make sure it's all relevant to the business. It seems like it should be pretty straightforward, but it's amazing how often that we find content that is somewhat unrelated. The biggest thing when it comes to content, especially for SEO as well, is using lots of photos and videos. And you want to make sure that they have a purpose too. It's not just kind of random stock imagery. You want to make sure that like your about page, for example, has photos of maybe you and your staff, has photos of your location, maybe a video introducing yourselves. All these things can really help kind of keep users engaged, keep them on the path to whatever they're looking for. When it comes to blogging is another major content strategy that people can employ. So we look for, do you have a blog, and is it maintained frequently? Are you posting to it frequently enough? Here's a common question though, that a blog I get can really overwhelm people. It overwhelms me myself as a business owner. And I think we're beyond the point now where people are expecting consistency. I mean, there's something to say about consistency, yes, but I often find myself like talking people off of a ledge when we talk about blogging, because there's this expectation that they have to like be writing huge articles every week and doing all these things with it. And that's where I say to them, like, what is manageable for you? Is it once a month? Is it like whenever you can get to it? Like, if that's the case, even whenever you can get to it is better than nothing, to be honest. Because even if you don't, especially if you don't have a following with a mailing list and people expecting it, then just posting a blog whenever you can is going to help your website in terms of developing and building on those keywords, and just providing more content for search engines to kind of sort through and serve your website up to people. So that's probably my biggest tip when it comes to blogging and content, is don't let a blog kind of overwhelm you. If you could do the consistency, absolutely go for it. But if not, don't let them tell you that you're a terrible person for not being able to keep up with it. And the last thing actually I'll say about website content, we often look for newsletter signups, because a newsletter is a pretty viable or pretty valuable marketing tool that you can utilize for any business, really. And we often remind people that like Facebook and Instagram being offline recently was a good reminder as to why email lists are so valuable, because it's not necessarily going to shut off on you overnight. So but again, it can be a pretty daunting undertaking, or time-consuming thing to take on. And we recommend some different tools and automation to try and make it a little bit easier for people. But so if you have a newsletter sign up, just make sure that it's well promoted. And what I mean by that is, like, don't just stick the sign up down in the footer. Try to put it somewhere of more prominence. If you're like, let's say you're an author selling books or something, and you might even do a pop-up. And I find pop-ups are or are more acceptable than they once were. But another important thing about a newsletter that I often recommend is don't call it a newsletter. don't call it a mailing list, because those two things often just scream spam to people, right? So try and come up with a fun name for this like exclusive club that people are joining to, that's going to provide some value for them, whatever that may be, whether it's promotions, discounts, or even just like valuable resources and articles, whatever it is. Try and really spin that so that they see the value in it. It doesn't sound like a mailing list or a spam list that they're going to be on, and yeah, just put it in a very prominent place. Don't just stick it in the footer. And so moving right along. So when it comes to SEO and search engine optimization, this of course is the art of being found online. I think it's an art form. I mean, it's very technical, right? It involves, just, I don't even want to get into it too much, but here's what we focus on with the digital audit, for example. So we ask the question, when searching with local names and keywords for your products or services, does your business show up on the first page? So, for example, does your cafe show up with a search for coffee in Stainer, right? Then that can be a tough one, especially, if you're in a competitive industry. A cafe especially can be really tough. But even before that, actually, we ask, when searching for your exact business name, does it show at the top of Google? If it doesn't, like, okay, there's our starting point, right? Like, we've got some very pretty easy work that we can do to try and get that business at the top of Google. Sometimes, though, if your business has a name that's got maybe like colloquial terms in it or something, or specific wording in it that also has other meanings, that can be problematic. But if it's something like your name, the accountant, that should be pretty easy thing to get yourself to the top of Google with that search. Again, if not, there's some pretty simple things that we can do. So even just like, you might be missing page titles or metadata in your website. Really quite simple things to update and make sure that they're in place. And then when we look at that Google listing, when it does come up, is it appropriate for the business? Like, sometimes, again, referring to like metadata, which is just some code that's kind of more behind the scenes in the website, that will oftentimes be what's shown as your Google listing. But sometimes people forget to update it. They might even have skipped over it, and there's maybe just some gibberish in there. Like, we've seen some really strange things in people's Google description. So again, that's something really simple to fix and update. Sometimes it can take a little bit of time to show up, but it's a really simple thing to fix that description. And so when it comes to SEO, oh, sorry, I got my social media slide up there. But when it comes to SEO, like, again, we try to really not overwhelm people. We do have one-on-one consults that we can get into more technical aspects, but from our kind of starting point. That's essentially what we look for, and just try and pinpoint any small issues that people are having, but also, going back to the content of the website and the functionality of the website. As I said, we're also addressing some key SEO tactics there. So as long as we're addressing those things and working on those things, then our SEO just naturally is also going to improve. Hopefully that makes sense. So again, yeah, it doesn't need to be so technical. It can, and it is, but baby steps, just baby steps, one thing at a time, and we'll get there. The next thing when it comes to SEO, though, is that we look at or for your Google My Business listing, which, as you probably know, is another just really valuable tool for business owners who want to get found, who want to be found on the map of Google Maps. This tool is how you get there. And I mean, beyond that, it provides a lot of information that is what business owners are looking for, or excuse me, what customers or potential customers are looking for, just right in that first initial search, from just your location, your hours of operation, the types of products or services that you offer. It's a really, really amazing tool. It's just communicating the basics really quickly. And so with that listing as well, though, it's vitally important, just like your website, that you keep it up to date, right? Your hours of operation are in there and correct. Your location is correct, which can be hard to change sometimes, but we can help with that too. It can be a simple process. Do you have photos on your Google My Business listing? That's always a really good one, often overlooked. Even if you're just a service-based industry, again, just, maybe an accountant or a mortgage broker, let's say, there's lots of opportunities to put photos of yourself, your office, maybe happy clients, whatever you can think of, to just kind of enhance that listing, keep it as lively and full of life, so to speak. Because again, just like your website, if things look off, look outdated, people might assume that you might not be around. So that's where, again, making sure everything is up to date is absolutely vital. 360 photos are also are pretty important. I mean, for mostly retail businesses, but even also like office spaces, if you have something that a place where the public can visit, it's a great enhancement to your listing. And I will say that the Digital Service Squad offers that for free. You just need to book it at the calendar that's going to be at the end of the presentation. So the other thing I want to mention too is reviews. And when it comes to reviews, it's really important, or a good strategy is to ask people for reviews. You can get a link from your Google My Business profile. You can send it out to people. Once your transaction has completed, once there's, you can work out that sort of automated process of when's a good time to slide that in there and say, hey, would love a review. But again, it's really important to ask. They're not going to know that you have or want a review unless you ask. And most people, like they'll either, if they don't want to, they'll ignore it, but for the most part, it's not a big deal for people to just provide a review. And so as a business owner, one of the most important things is to respond to all reviews. So even bad reviews, everyone always recommends that that you respond very positively to a bad review. So, and the reason being is that if someone else comes along and reads this bad review and says, "Oh man, like that sounds like a terrible experience," but then sees you come back with, you know, some kind of response, any kind of response, but as long as, especially if it's positive, if it's something like, "Oh, really sorry that you had this terrible experience. Like, if we want to make it up to you or something," and if it looks like that you are trying to make it right with this customer, then it's really going to turn that around for a lot of people. So always just, really good idea. Reply to reviews, even good ones too, just to say thanks, is just, another reminder for people who might be reading those, or an indicator that, you're sort of on top of things here, you're responsive. That's really what people want to see when doing business with anyone, really, I think. Okay, so now on to social media. The other overwhelming digital marketing strategies. And again, we tend to find ourselves, less and less, like lately, I think people have embraced the idea that they don't need to be everywhere at all times. And the reason being, or the rationale that, we as the digital service squad often sort of preach, is that, it's go where your audience is, right? That's what we always tell people. So if you are, for the most part, like for many of our clients, most of our clients, their audiences are on Facebook, Instagram, maybe LinkedIn, maybe TikTok sometimes. But a lot of people who say like, "Oh, should I be on TikTok? Should I be on Snapchat?" We say, well, like, who are your customers? Are they on Snapchat or TikTok? Like, are they, like, often it's when we look at the demographics of people who are using these platforms, we can determine whether or not it's a viable option. But the other, the flip side to that coin is always like, do you have the capacity to maintain this profile? A lot of people, a lot of businesses, tend to be maxed out with Facebook, Instagram, managing the two, and that's okay, I think. Again, as long as you're hitting your target audience, as long as you are growing that audience and it's working for you, then great, like you're in the right place. But if you're not growing that audience, if your business is, if you're not seeing any business from those, or any return from the energy you're pouring into those platforms, then it could be that you're targeting the wrong audience, you're in the wrong place. Let's maybe try explore something else. So I never tell anybody that that they shouldn't be in or exploring other opportunities, but for the most part, it really comes down to, like, who is your audience and what can you manage on an ongoing basis. Excuse me. But more specifically, when it comes to like those profiles, what we look for, again, is that consistency of branding. So making sure your branding is there, that I can determine easily that, this website and this Facebook page or this Twitter account are the exact same company. Is your about section or bio complete, and does it make sense? Like, we just want to make sure that all that information is there in all the areas that it can be. And it's, Facebook often keeps changing things up in terms of their different sections, but yeah, essentially, is it up to date, just like everything else? Do you have a Facebook shop? Here's a somewhat new one, where for retailers, if they have an e-commerce store, we would definitely recommend checking out, exploring the opportunity of a Facebook or Instagram shop. I feel like more people are heading Instagram direction these days, but which is interesting. But it's a really, really incredible tool that I think a lot of businesses, especially retailers, as I said, can and should explore if they have the capacity. And then when it comes to posting content, here's where consistency is actually pretty important. As opposed to blogging, as I said, like it can be, you can have a little bit more flexibility there. When it comes to social media, it's a pretty like here and now thing, where that consistency is just really going to help you stay top of mind with people. So posting at least 3 times a day, or excuse me, 3 times a week. I know I see a lot of eyebrows go up like, whoa, yeah, excuse me, but at least 3 times a day. I keep 3 times a week. And a variety of content. So not just salesy posts all the time, because that can really kind of get, it kind of goes against the grain of what social media is for in a way, right? So we want to often suggest the 80-20 rule, where 80% is, just more engaging content, photos, information that people can, that again, they kind of can enjoy, right? That's more enjoyable than just like sales message all the time. Keep that to about 20% of your posts. And your audience should not get so annoyed with that. We hope. And then furthermore, when it comes to social media, engaging with people, it's kind of the point of the whole thing, right? It's not just about posting photos, it's about interacting with people. And you know what? I mean, that can be the hardest part of social media for a lot of people, especially from that business perspective. Acting as your business, it can be maybe a tricky area to navigate, but it is important to, pose questions to people, run surveys, respond to comments. That's a big one that we see a lot of businesses kind of neglecting. If anyone comments on your post, just like the reviews, leave a comment. So even just to say, thanks for your comment, sort of thing, because it makes you look more engaged. People see and notice these things, so it's really important to do that. I also want to mention just like strategy a little bit also would include like the use of hashtags. So Instagram specifically, we recommend that businesses really try and explore hashtags. And here's another one that I really try to simplify for people, because often businesses that we deal with are targeting audiences in a local market, right? So here's the thing about hashtags, is that they're essentially global to an extent. So if we look at the hashtag, like let's say coffee again, as an example, if we use the hashtag coffee, it's very generic. It's very, it's not very specific. And, there's probably like billions of people using the hashtag coffee all over the world. and you're sort of just another drop in the bucket. Whereas again, if you're trying to focus on a more localized market, you might use like more popular hashtags that are being used locally. So dig around, try and find those hashtags of like what are people using locally that would not be such a broad in such broad use across the world and would get you seen by more locals, right? So it might be something like Collingwood coffee, or Creamore coffee, although that is a company, I think, in Collingwood, which is confusing. But so, and then there's even like more regional, Explore, Creamore, something like that, right? So you can use those very localized hashtags to try and piggyback off of those and get yourself in front of those more localized markets. So hopefully that's not too overwhelming as well. And that's it. So those 5 things are really what we try and focus on, what we try and simplify for businesses that we work with. But as I said, we have actually a menu of services that people can book with us at any time at enterprisecenter.ca/digital service squad. And you'll see it is a full menu of services that can allow you to get more technical. So we're not always trying to push the simple. We can and do get very technical with people as well, who, as I said, who have the desire to learn, the capacity to continue, expanding their both their knowledge and their abilities in their digital and online presence. And it all starts with an audit report. And that's it. Are there any questions?
So Ben, I had an opportunity to do the boot camp with you guys, and I was wondering, are you going to be doing that again? Like, is that an ongoing program? Was that a pilot?
Yeah, good question. So it was a bit of a pilot. We hadn't planned on running it again, but we are running a more of like an email sort of education. It's called a drip campaign, where essentially you sign up for this program and you get an email every week, and each week it's got more information on that one topic. We've been considering expanding. We only have, I think, 3 topics currently, of which like that digital advertising, like launching a cost per click advertising campaign, is not currently one of them.
Right.
But it could be. That is something that we might explore in the next little bit.
I feel like my experience with that boot camp was fantastic. And as I'm watching this presentation, I'm reminded of the details that came out and how you walked us through that audit process. And I think that's so valuable for anybody who's starting out, for sure. I consider it to be quite valuable for anyone who's been in business a while, because sometimes you kind of lose focus, right? And you maybe need to come back to it and sort of maybe reevaluate or update, that kind of thing. So thanks so much for that.
Yeah, thanks. And so, yeah, the just a bit of a recap on that, like the way, we approached it in the same way that we do all these things, right? Which was like, you got to learn to walk before you run. And so if you want to do a cost per click advertising campaign, in order for that to be as successful as possible, we definitely need to take a step back and make sure that all of these things in that digital audit report are kind of checked off, because if there's any holes in that sales funnel, then we're just kind of throwing our money away a little bit, or potentially could be.
Uh, so Ben, that was great. Thank you so much. I'm very lucky. I'm under like a big umbrella company with my mortgage career. It's Mortgage Architects. So they pretty much set everything up for me. Like my website, there's already a logo that I have to use. Like, you know, um, the only thing was the hashtags on my post, and I just had that conversation today with my brokerage. I guess she went on and noticed I didn't have any, so we had that conversation today, so it's on my to-do list tomorrow.
Nice.
The only question I have, and I've asked my brokerage and other agents, and I don't really ever get a straight answer, so since you're the expert on it, I have a Facebook business page and my personal page. Is that good? Because like I invited all my friends to my business page, but I still only have, and everybody accepted the invite, but I only have 17 followers that I post to every week. I work so hard on these posts, and yeah, like so should I be like, should I just have the one? Because you said there should be a mix, right? The 80-20 as well.
Oh, well, yeah, in terms of the 80-20 is like, yeah, in terms of the sort of sales content being 20%, and then, yeah, more just like fun, engaging things, even just like, you know, the happy holidays or,
yeah,
you know, Remembrance Day posts, for example. That should make up the other 80%. But so, yeah, so that's a really good, but it's a really good question though, in terms of like those two profiles, because it can be very deflating when you set up that whole business profile and all of a sudden your audience seems to have shrunk in terms of like when you compare it to your friends and now your business profile. You're not alone in experiencing that feeling of like, oh, what have I done? Like, should I be in just doing it as myself? Which, I mean, I've seen quite a few people do that. It's certainly an option. However, the benefits to having a business page, and you do actually have to have both. So Facebook wants you to have a personal page in order to create and manage a business page, just so they know like there's a real person behind this business entity, right?
Oh, okay.
But then once like the benefits of having that business page include your ad account, so you can have a like you can more easily advertise your posts or create promotions and things. Like I said, the store, which probably doesn't necessarily apply to you, but
No.
But there's different like community things, and just like, I don't know, to me, it does make a lot more sense to operate as that business entity, even if it's a personal kind of service-based thing. So what you can do in order to make the most out of those posts, instead of just sharing with those 17 people, is share them as yourself on your personal profile. So
I thought about doing that. I wasn't sure.
Yeah, that stuff like that is totally acceptable. It's gonna get your posts seen by more people, and like Facebook kind of did that on purpose. Like they used to have business page content showing up in people's personal feeds more regularly, and they really kind of changed their algorithm like a couple of years ago, where it's really kind of in the background. So it really forced business owners to have to be more proactive when it came to getting that content in front of people. So either sharing it, and you should. So share it on your personal profile. You can share it in groups. You can share it in Messenger even, as well as promoting it. Consider, if there's anything big, major that you want to put a couple dollars towards and just promote it to a broader audience, then that's it's what they want you to do, but it can help get it out in front of more people too.
That's great. Okay. And I also link it with my Instagram now. Like I use the scheduling suite or whatever you call that. And I post on both at the same time.
Right. Yes. And that is, again, that's another benefit of having that business page, is that now you can actually connect those two things. And are you using the Facebook scheduling suite now? They have, or I forget what it's called.
Yeah. Like when you click to do a post, I forget the exact name of it, but anyways, and you can like schedule the post too. So, which is great for me because it takes me time to like come up with all my stuff. Like all my stuff is educational. Our brokerage is educational based. Like we like to educate our clients. So yeah, it takes me a while to write those and come up with everything. And so now I can do them ahead of time.
Right. So it is a fantastic strategy to like keep your social media sustainable, is to schedule them out. Just sit down, spend a block of time getting like a couple weeks out. And I will say that, I'm actually pretty impressed, because the posting scheduler in Facebook has really improved. It was not necessarily even an option until recently. And so it's, I'm actually making the switch like from third-party solutions that we've often recommended to people, just because now it's like, I can do all that in Facebook and it's free, instead of like, the Hootsuites or the laters that start getting really expensive real quick.
Yeah, I hope it stays free.
It should, because they want you to post content, but then they'll just hit you up more and more about boosting those posts.
Yes, I do get that all the time. Yeah, that's great. Great. Well, thank you so much.
No problem.
Yeah. So Ben, is there anything else you want to share with us? Great. The website. So that's perfect. Thank you.
That's it. For any businesses in the South Georgian Bay area, so from Clearview all the way over to Meaford, our digital service squad is here to help. And for the next month, so we're recording this in at the end of October, but the end of November, until the end of November, there's still a digital transformation grant available to qualifying businesses. So anyone who's interested should book a consult with us, find out more about that, find out more about all the services that we can provide, and book that digital audit.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I love spending time with you. Really appreciate the program, and it's so valuable. So we'll be sharing this on our YouTube. And thanks again for coming. We'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks for having me. Really appreciate it.